Hey, welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. I am your host, Devon Harris, and you know, what we do is that we share ideas and insights that are going to help you live your absolute best life. And so if that's something that you're even remotely interested in, guess what? You are in the right place, man. So welcome to Keep On Pushing. Why would anyone, in his right mind, jump on a sled, stick his feet out, and go down an icy chute in excess of 80 miles an hour? Well, maybe our guest today can tell you exactly why. He, in fact, started luge at the age of 21, picked up the sport and started training for the Olympics, and now today is a four-time Olympian. In fact, he's the first person, I think the only person, to have ever competed in 4 Olympic Games, and each in a different decade. He has done mountain climbing, and today he's a best-selling author and he's a motivational speaker. I am so pleased to welcome to Keep On Pushing, Ruben Gonzalez. Welcome, Ruben. Thanks for coming on.
How are you doing, Devon? It's great to see you.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you on. Of course, look, we both competed in 2 Olympics together, 88 and 92, but we didn't meet until, much later. But you know as well as I do that there's this rivalry between bobsledders and lugers. We're going, why would anyone go at 80 miles an hour and stick their feet out in front of them? They must be losers. And so we call you guys losers, but I know you have an interesting story of a champion boxer who thought when you were telling him what you did, you thought you said you're a loser. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is even before my first Olympics. I was working out in my gym in Houston, and it's just a little bitty gym. And in walks Lou Duva, who was he's a very famous boxing manager. He managed Evander Holyfield and a bunch of champions. So he walks in with about 10 boxers, and Evander's one of them. And this is right after he'd won the heavyweight title, and Evander was a middleweight, a light heavyweight actually. And he moved up. Everybody thought they were gonna kill him, and he made it. So all of a sudden he's famous. And when he walked into that gym, everybody, including myself, started doing the same thing. We started whispering real loud, "That's Evander Holyfield. What's he doing here?" And nobody had the guts to go up to him. And me neither, right? But the littlest one, he must have been 5 foot tall. He didn't look so intimidating. So this little guy, he gets on a stationary bike, and I got next to him, and I asked him, what do you do? He says, "I box. What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a loser." And he said, "Don't you ever call yourself a loser, man. You're a winner." And he said it like that, so loud. Everybody got off their machines, and they started looking at me. Yeah. And I came this close to just walking out that door and joining a different club. I told them, it's the luge, not the bobsled.
Yeah, and I agree with him, man. Don't ever call yourself a loser, man. You may be a loser, but you're not a loser.
There you go.
That's pretty cool. But look, I might be biased here, but I think more people know about bobsledding than they know about luge. So, tell us about your sport, Ruben. What is it like to, head down essentially a bobsled track with your feet sticking out in front of you?
Well, actually, now they're starting to know a little bit more, but I still tell, a lot of people, "Hey, you guys ever seen Cool Runnings?" He goes, "Yeah, okay. Well, we go down that same track, but we're laying down on a little bitty sled, right?" Yeah. So I have to explain it using you guys. Yeah. But, it's very counterintuitive. I've had one of the doctors up at the end of the Albertville Olympics. The doctor that was in charge of U.S. Actually, it must have been the Salt Lake City. But he said he was over bobsled, skeleton, and luge, and he said 70% of the injuries came from luge, and it's very counterintuitive. Anything that would be normal to do will get you into trouble. And so there's a lot of injuries. And with the skeleton, I don't know if you ever did the skeleton, which is like head first luge.
I like company. I'm going to stick to bobsledding. Thank you very much.
You like company. Well, the skeleton, if you look to the, you just look into the curve, and that drives your shoulder down, and it drives. So you just do Stevie Wonder the whole way down, and you're okay, right? Didn't mean you're going to be fast, but at least you get down. And my daughter, when she was 16, I took her to Salt Lake City for a skeleton camp, and they started them off on curve 12, and by the end of the week, they were going from lady start. They were going over 60 miles an hour from lady start. And it would take us, 5 months at least to get to lady start for brand new luge beginner. Yeah, so I was jealous.
That's amazing. So look, I know you were born in Argentina, so really you're supposed to be like the next Diego Maradona or the precursor to Lionel Messi. Both were small guys, kind of like yourself. But instead, you end up, competing in luge. You describe yourself as a guy who was not a great athlete, but yet you're a 4-time Olympian. How does that happen?
If I had stayed in Argentina, they're soccer maniacs over there. I still love soccer. Still my favorite sport to play and to watch. But I'm slow. Right.
What position did you play, by the way, in soccer?
Mostly they put me in. They put me fullback, right fullback, because that's or sweeper. I could
not too much running, huh?
No, that's right. Wait for them, right? And they call me the animal because I just I was mean. But anyways, I'm slow, right? So if you don't have a quick a speed in most sports, you're dead. And even though I have good skills, I was still on the bench. We moved to the States when I was a little kid, and I caught the Olympic dream. And it was a pipe dream all my life. And then when I was 21, I'm watching the Sarajevo games, the 84 games on TV, and I saw Scott Hamilton, the figure skater, win the gold medal. And he's tiny. He's about 100 pounds, 5'1". He gave me hope. I thought, if that little guy can do it, if he can win, I can at least play. So I went to the library and looked at the list of the sports, and it took me 5 minutes to, after looking at the summer sports, you have to be a super athlete. Forget this. Then I started looking at the winter, and my nickname in high school was Bulldog because I was always very tenacious, very perseverant. So I thought, I have to find a sport with a lot of broken bones, maybe be a lot of quitters, and then I just won't quit. I'll make it to the top on the attrition rate.
Gotcha.
So what I tell people is you have to figure out what you're good at. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then you go with your strengths. And so I picked the luge because I've never seen it on TV. If I had, I probably would never have picked it, right? I had a little picture of a guy on a luge, and I thought, that looks pretty tough. That's the one for me.
Yeah.
And I called Lake Placid, and at first the guy wouldn't let me in. He said, "You're crazy, man. If you're 21, you should have 10 years experience. There's no way." And I knew if I hang up, it's all over. So hanging up's not an option. And I just kept him on the phone. And I happened to tell him that I was born in Argentina, and he got all excited. He said, "If you go for Argentina, we'll train you." And I said, "Why? A minute ago, you weren't going to train me at all." He says, "The sport of luge is in danger of getting kicked out of the Olympics because we're not global enough. We don't have enough countries. We're recruiting." I said, "Wow, that sounds good. Tell me more." He said, "Well, if you'll go for Argentina, you'll train with us, you'll travel with us. We'll have to compact 10 years of training into 2 years. You're going to get hurt a lot, okay?" Because the last
something right up your alley, huh?
Yeah, well, I thought, wow, this works right into my plan. This is sounding good. But he said the last 2 years you have to be competing against the best in the world because you have to qualify. Back then the top 50 men made it. And so will you go for Argentina? And I told him, "Man, I'll go for anybody. I'll go for Pakistan. I don't care. I don't even care what sport. I just want to be an Olympian."
Yeah.
So I went, and it was brutal. But 4 years and a few broken bones later, I made it.
Wow. It's really interesting, because, when people meet me, even today, they laugh at the idea that a Jamaican can be bobsledding, right? And our story is so similar, it's not funny, because we did not know much about bobsledding in the beginning, and it kind of fell in our laps, and in no time we're at the Olympic Games, right? Well, you had a few more years to train than we did. But you're from Argentina. You're living in Houston, which is, I went to Houston a few years ago in the summer, and I began to question my Jamaicanness. It was so hot.
Yeah,
And here it is that you're from you know, steamy Houston, discovering the sport out of nowhere, and here you're at the Olympic Games. It just, I think, reinforces, in my mind anyway, that we are all so much more alike than one would believe, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, when people laugh at, you know, they say, well, how can Jamaicans be bobsledders? You know, I tell them, or how can somebody from Houston be a luger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, hey, the tracks will never come to me, right? I have to go to the track. You have to go pursue your dream. You can't wait for it to fall in your lap. Otherwise, you're going to be 80 years old and you'll have all these regrets of you didn't do anything in life.
I agree. I've heard you saying that if your dream is big enough, the facts don't count. You know, and my saying to that is never mind the facts, because when you focus on the goals with a positive attitude, you get to create a brand new set of facts that are far more powerful, far more dynamic, far more amazing. And I think our story kind of demonstrate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I met a guy, well, actually not personally, but I've met him over the phone. His name is, and I know you know him, Greg's son.
And, I know, Trini.
Yeah, Trinidad, right? Well, this guy has a great story. He went to school, or he taught in Boise, and then he began helping out the younger Jamaican bobsledders, and he got inspired, and he started training. And the first time he went to Calgary, he thought he was going to die from the cold. But he got into it, and now I think he's been to a couple of Olympics in the bobsled.
So he actually went to college. No, I was about to say Trini, Greg's son, went to college with Chris Stokes, who was on our team.
Stokes, yeah, your driver, right?
Well, it was Dudley's brother. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dudley's brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, yeah, man. So I know Greg really well. But you know, so you spoke about in high school, well, on the soccer team they called you the maniac. Was that?
Yeah, call me animal.
Yeah, and in high school they called you the bulldog. So, where did that tenacity comes from, Ruben? Was that from your upbringing, or was that just something that was innately in you?
You know, I was talking to Jack Canfield, the guy that wrote the Success Principles. Right. And he teaches a lot about self-esteem. And he was interviewing me for his book a few years ago. And it's funny, I called his office right after I wrote my first book. I was just trying to get some testimonials from famous people, right? Yeah. Because you put some big names in your book, you know, they might buy it. Yeah. And so I called Jack's office, and his secretary said, he's right here. And he got on the phone, and he said, you got 5 minutes. Well, we talked for an hour and a half. We became friends. and it was during the time that he was writing the Success Principles. He says, man, I want to have you restored in my book. And he put me in 3 times, you know, and I've gotten lots of bookings from that, from people that read his book. But he is a big believer in self-esteem. And he said, Ruben, you must have an incredible self-esteem to do this, which you did. And I told him, no, you know, Jack, I think it's the opposite for me. I always got picked a lot in school when I was a little kid. When I moved to the United States, I didn't fit in, right? I didn't know the customs. I didn't speak the language, and I got picked on. And I thought there was something wrong with me back then. And I think it was that me trying to prove to myself that I was worthy, right? And so that was part of the driving force. And my mom, she used to always say, you know, we are a family of dreamers, okay? Your great-grandparents, when things were really bad in Italy at the turn of the century, they left everything behind to go to Argentina. Yeah. And then we left everything behind to come to the United States. We are dreamers. We're willing to give up something good for the hope of something better in the future. And so that kind of, you know, percolated in my head, and it's just a combination.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you mentioned that you came here when you were young, I think at 6. And, you know, and of course, the world is very different today, to include here in the U.S. You know, there are many segments of the population here that is not so immigrant friendly. You know, they're not so friendly to Spanish speakers in general, Mexicans in particular. What was it like for you as a 6-year-old moving? You mentioned that you got picked on a lot. What other dynamics existed then?
Well, when we came from Argentina, the idea was always to go back, right? There was a lot of terrorism and people disappearing, and the economy was a mess. And so, hey, we're just going to come to the States for a few years and we're going to go back. But it never got better. So they kept pushing the return date. So in my mind, our house was a little bit of Argentina. And I've never really assimilated too much because and then finally it wasn't until, almost till the end of high school that we realized, no, we're staying. It's never going to get better over there. And so, I didn't assimilate as quickly. My little brother, he was 2 years old when we came, and he became American more easily, right? He didn't have to go through what I did. Mm-hmm. So, but it was tough. But then, it's kind of I always try to look at the good side. It made me tougher, right? Yeah, so I'll take it. I wouldn't change it.
Right. So you played soccer growing up. You eventually did luge, but were there any other sports that you did?
I played ping pong pretty good, and well, we have the table downstairs, and
I guess you don't have to run around too fast for that.
Oh, that's not very far, I can handle that. That fits a slowpoke like me, But any sport I like, squash is a lot of fun, and racquetball. But I'm very competitive, right? I mean, at home, I was always the first one to finish eating. My mom said, "It's not a race." I said, "Mom, everything's a race." So I guess it's the way I'm made. Absolutely.
What lessons, Ruben, and I'm using this series to speak to athletes a lot because I'm interested in, and I want to share with our listeners the lessons that we have taken away from our sporting lives, that we have applied to our lives in particular, but that they can apply to their lives as well. What lessons would you say you have taken away from sports?
Well, gosh, there's so many, but one of them is resilience, right? Because you're in any sport, you don't win every single time. You're going to lose. So you have to learn how to come back. What do you do when you lose? Yeah. What do you do when you're having a bad, I was just watching the women's final, Australian Open on TV. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Incredible. The girl from Japan, Osaka, she was winning in the first sets. She won the first set 7-6. And then she's winning the second set 5-3. And she's 40-0, right? She's got 3 championship points. Then she had a total breakdown where she lost it 15 out of the next 20 points, and she was crying, right? And she lost the second set, and everybody thought she's done. And then somehow, she put a towel over her head, and I think that was a really smart thing to do. She didn't want to look at anybody. She just wanted to get in her head. And then she came back in that third set and won, and now she's ranked #1 in the world. First Japanese person to be ranked #1 in the world in tennis. Yeah. And so how do you do that? And she's 21, but she's going to take what she learned, and she's going to have that for the rest of her lives, because now she knows, hey, whatever life gives me, I got what it takes inside to, fight back, to get back up. So that's one thing. Another thing is teamwork, right? How you can't do it by yourself. Absolutely. I mean, even the luge, when I started, I was a cocky 21-year-old. I thought I could do everything by myself. And it didn't take too many luge runs to realize I need some help. Chiropractors, doctors, financial, everything. Yeah. It's so teamwork. And then another thing is, you have to learn to be coachable, right? To listen to your coach, to humble yourself to their experience and their leadership, because they know the way. And so those are things that I've taken and used all my life.
No, I appreciate those are great lessons. I think, people often, especially in the business world, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, you tend to think that, man, this is all about me. I have to be a rainmaker. And you absolutely have to be, right? The journey starts with you, but it doesn't end with you, because you need people who are there to support you, right? Encourage you, sometimes give you a swift one up the rear, and when it doesn't go right, you're absolutely right. You have to be resilient. You have to find a way to always bounce back and know it, as you say, that you have what it takes inside of you to overcome whatever life throws at you. So
the Olympics.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to do something here real quick, okay? Did you hear that little noise about a minute ago? That boom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was getting a text, so I'm going to turn this off, right?
Cool.
But my text is a luge. It's the sound of a luge, right?
Yeah.
And then if you give me a phone call, it's ding dong. It's the sound of the start, right?
Gotcha.
And then the rings here. I mean, I got Olympics everywhere. I'm bombarding my brain with where I want to go. You got to keep your goals in front of you and be thinking about them all the time. Because if you don't, life happens, right? And 6 months go by, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot I was going for the Olympics. I just blew through 6 months, right? So
and it's an interesting point because you are trying to compete in your 5th Olympic Games, aren't you?
Yeah. I get bored. I mean, Devon, you know, I have this really weird 7 years go by after an Olympics, and I get really bored, and I got to do something, climb a mountain or do something.
Yeah.
So last year, after 7 years after the Vancouver Games, I went to Calgary, and I took a few runs, mainly to see if this old body can handle 6 Gs still, right?
Yeah.
Or 5 or whatever. Calgary's not that bad, but and I'm sliding better than ever. I'm actually relaxing and listening to the coaches better than I did before.
Wow.
My starts are the worst now. They have me doing yoga and stretching. I mean, they said, you slide better. Your start is, you're strong, but you're paddling. You paddle like a little girl, man. You need to. And so we're trying to get an extra mile an hour before curve 1. And then they said, I got a shot. But if I make it, I'll be 59 years old in the Beijing Olympics. I'll be the oldest ever. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, so are you familiar with Grandma Luge and Abernathy from the?
Sure, I traveled with her for years. Yeah,
of course. So you're the oldest guy, but yeah, she's competed in 6 Olympic Games, man.
So I can't imagine. And she did them all straight. I can't imagine doing one thing for so long. You know, I get bored. I did 2. And then I quit, right? I quit for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And then I did Salt Lake, and then I quit again for 7 years. And then I did Vancouver, and I quit again. But man, she did 6 in a row. I mean, that's
longevity. That's longevity. So that's kind of interesting. So you've retired and come out of retirement 3 times. And you know, when I speak to athletes like us who have retired, they talk about just how tough retirement is. What is you mentioned being bored, but what is it like for you mentally when you wake up the morning after the Olympic Games and you realize, hey, there's no need to go training anymore? It's over.
You know what? After the Calgary Olympics, I was depressed for about 3 months, and it happened to me again after the Albertville Olympics, right? And when women talk about postpartum depression, you know, they just had a baby. It's the same thing, right? It's like, oh, wow, I got a baby. I got to change diapers now. And so, but after Salt Lake City, it didn't happen. And you know why? Right before the Salt Lake City Olympics, this little kid said, hey, Ruben, when you come back from the Olympics, will you be my show and tell project in school? Mm-hmm. I thought, sure, why not? And I took the sled and the helmet to show to the kids. And the principal takes me to the auditorium. There's 200 kids there. He says, you got 45 minutes. Have at them. Yeah. And I thought I was going to die, right? Because I've never taken a speech class in my life. And believe it or not, I'm an introvert. Okay? I get excited when I talk about this stuff, but I'm usually a very introvert. I told my story. Afterwards, he said, man, you're better than the people we pay. You need to do this for a living. And I always wanted to have my own business, so I quit my job 3 days later, and I just started calling every school in Houston. And I started a business. And so it's because I had a new dream and a new goal that I was too busy to get depressed, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I tell people, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up, because when you're getting close to your dream, you better be thinking about the next dream. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble.
You have to keep on pushing, baby. You have to keep on pushing.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, you should make a T-shirt out of that. You know, that would be a good slogan.
Good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, a book maybe.
Let me write that down. Yeah.
Yeah, but now you got to give me royalties, okay? Because it's such a great idea. But But yeah, you have to have another dream. Otherwise, man, you're in trouble. You're in
You're
big
done.
trouble.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you don't have a dream, if you don't have something to pull you, if you don't have something to engage you, then all that you've done in the past feels like a letdown, because there's nothing energizing you anymore to get up in the morning. You know, and I kind of, my first two Olympics were very different for me, because I was in the army in Jamaica. And so it was like I took my bobsled uniform off, put my army uniform back on, and I went to work, right? In my head, bobsledding was an extension of my military service. But I remember after Salt Lake City, after Nagano, waking up in Salt Lake and like, okay, so what do you do with your life now? You know, because I wasn't going to be doing two-a-days anymore. And you're right, that's kind of how or when my speaking career got started. And we're going to talk about your speaking in a minute, but talk to me about the Olympics. So you've been to 4, man. For me, all 3 of my Olympic experiences were a little bit different. What were yours like? What are some of the memories or the fondest memory you have of the Olympics?
Well, you know, Calgary, and I'm sure you agree, that was our first one. Your first one and my first one.
You always remember your first, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know, you don't walk around, you just float around, and you develop cheek muscles because you're smiling nonstop for 2 weeks. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And the people in Calgary are so friendly, you know, and they were so
they were the best. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, they were so excited because they wanted to get the Olympics for 20 years, and they always lost to another city. So when they finally got it, you know, they went nuts. Yeah. And so Calgary was awesome. I got goosebumps just telling you about it. Albertville, oh my gosh. Did you go to Albertville?
So you're right. I was thinking about this as I was getting ready. We were in the same village up in La Plana.
La Plana, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we were there. We were in the same building. They had all the boxes. Yeah, it looked like a Coke can. Remember?
Yeah, it was a Club Med. And,
Club Med. Yeah. So I don't know about you, but man, after Calgary, Albertville was such a letdown. You know, people were not excited. The people actually they didn't even want us there because they were having to close their shops and they were losing business. The food was magnificent. I mean, they had these big old tables with hundreds of kinds of cheeses. It was all gourmet, but I learned that gourmet food with bad customer service sucks. I'd rather have a sandwich with good customer service.
You know why part of the reason why Albertville was a letdown is because I believe we were spoiled in Calgary. I did not realize that Calgary was the first time in the history of the Winter Olympics when almost everybody was housed in the same village except for the skiers. They were in Banff. So there was this
camaraderie.
Yeah, the sense of family. It's just like it was so easy to meet people from different sports. And here we were in Calgary, in La Plana. Who were you seeing? Bobsledders and lugers. People you saw. So it's like,
yeah. Yeah, you know? I got my picture with Herschel Walker. I think that's the highlight of my Albertville. I mean, you know, it was so much of a letdown that my buddy Pablo Garcia from Spain, he luged for Spain. He and we said, let's get out of here. And after our race, because luge is right after the opening ceremonies, after our race, we took a train.
That's another reason why bobsledders hate you guys, man.
We have the best schedule. Oh my God.
You're done right at the start of the Olympic Games, 2 weeks of partying, bobsledding, 2 man is at the end of the first week, then you train for the second week, 4 man at the end of that second week, and then the closing ceremonies. And
no, you guys are working too hard.
It's just wrong, man.
No, and you know what? You probably don't even know this, but we come a week before. So we get 3 weeks, right? We're the first ones in the Olympic Village. By the time everybody shows up, we're friends, we're insiders with the cooks, with the maids, with everybody, right? So we
another reason to hate losers.
There you go. See, you should have done luge. Man. But I know you like company. That's okay.
Yeah, I like company. What can I say? So you go to Salt Lake. I think you used to sell copiers, right, and shredders.
Yeah, sold copiers. And Salt Lake, I loved it. Did you do Salt Lake?
No, I was there. I didn't compete at the
Okay.
time.
I thought Salt Lake was my favorite one.
That was my toughest Olympic Games, man. Salt Lake, because I was at the race, watching guys I used to beat and go, "This I shouldn't be in this race."
Yeah, that would hurt. Yeah. They treated us so nice in Salt Lake City. You know, they would always ask, how's your Olympic experience? I must have heard that 100 times. And finally I realized, hey, they must be training them to ask that. But it's such a good question, you know, because it's a way of saying, how's everything going, but kind of, you know, soft, right? Not like, you know, and so, or can I help you? I mean, I go to a store and somebody says, can I help you? No, I don't want you to help me. I want to look for myself. I'll ask you for help when I'm ready. But how's your experience? Like, ooh. And they just treated us so nice. I loved it. And then Vancouver was good, but not, I don't know, maybe it just didn't feel as good as Calgary. Calgary was just unreal.
Yeah, Calgary, we were spoiled. It's hard, I think, to live up to that standard that they set for sure. You know, so, you know, we're talking about dreams early, and I think, you know, the Olympic Games and competing as an Olympian is what really epitomizes for us athletes this crowning achievement of a dream, even if you didn't win a medal. You know, I remember, you know, at the opening ceremonies, marching in the stadium, right, and what, 35, 50,000 people, more cameras than you can count. And people are screaming. And as you have watched the Olympics, you know.
And they even put sand there for you to make you feel good, man.
Right. But here it is that, you know, in that moment that your image is being broadcasted around the world, because you have watched this as well. And you know that there's some little kid somewhere around the world looking at you going, wow, he must be one of the best athletes in the world. And in that moment, I feel like, wow, this is what it feels like to live a dream.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was awesome. Let me explain that comment because nobody's going to understand that. It's very insider stuff. See, during the Calgary Games, it's a winter and it's supposed to snow, right? I mean, it's Canada in the winter and there was no snow. And it was going to look really bad on TV. So they brought in white sand from somewhere in the Caribbean, and they covered the whole stadium in sand. It looked like a beach, but on TV it looks like snow. So it was crazy.
Calgary was crazy. You remember how warm it got. I remember telling people that second week during the 4-man, I was in the back of a pickup driving around in sunglasses and T-shirt, man. I'm like, wow. If this Chinook rolled in and it got really, really warm. So, yeah, but still an amazing experience.
Yeah.
So 4 Olympic Games, right after Salt Lake, this kid invited you to go do show and tell, and you killed it like an Olympian. You killed it. And you go, oh, maybe I should try the speaking thing, right? So that's how you got started in speaking.
Yeah, and it was because the principal was in my face. I mean, he was almost like, he sounded like he was mad. He was so passionate, right? He says, man, you got a gift. You need to do this for a living. You're better than the people we pay. It was that last part that got me interested. And I said, what, you get paid for show and tell? And he said, no, it's the speaking profession. Don't you know anything? And so he changed my life. Well, the kid changed my life by putting me there, but the principal, you know, and see, I tell people, when somebody compliments you, they have seen something about you that sticks out. They've seen a glimpse of your greatness, right? Mm-hmm. And so you need to thank them, right? And you need to think, maybe I am really good at this. Otherwise, why would they compliment me, right? And maybe that's something that I can take to reach my dream.
Yeah, absolutely. But it goes back to this whole business of teamwork, because as in the broadest sense, that kid and that principal were members of your team. They saw something in you. The kid saw, you know, from your experience that you had something to share. And the way you shared it, the principal saw that you had a passion for sharing your story, telling stories that is going to, you know, help move and inspire people. So that's awesome. So I know you have written, you know, a couple of books. You have written Courage to Succeed, which is a bestseller. translated in 10 languages. You have written The Inner Game of Success. You have written Dreams, Struggle and Victory with your daughter, Gabrielle. By the way, I have my copy here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put in there. Whoa. And a number of other books. But all your books, Ruben, speaks to the universal principles for success in sports and in business and in life. So maybe a two-part question here. One, what advice would you have for someone who is thinking about becoming an author and want to become a best-selling author? What tips would you share with them?
Yeah, sure. When I got started speaking, I just started calling schools. This is March, right? It's right after the Olympics. March, April, May, I'm living the dream, right? I've got my own business. I'm making money. I didn't know what to charge. So I was getting $500 to speak at a school, and I thought I had won the lottery, right? I was speaking everywhere. Yeah. And but I was so focused on the schools that I forgot that the summer was going to be dead, right? It's vacation. Mm-hmm. And so June, July, and August, nothing, right? $0. We're $50,000 in credit card debt because everybody asked me, who's your sponsor, Ruben? Coke, Pepsi, Nike? No, mine are Visa and MasterCard, right? I always put it on the card. Yeah. Before I did, right? And so I had a big debt. And by August, top of the world at the Olympics, right in February, by August, we're on food stamps. Almost lost the house. I mean, very humbled at this point. And I realized, oh my God, I tell everybody they have to find a coach or a mentor, somebody that's already done what they need to do. And I'm not even taking my own advice. I need to find somebody that understands this business. And so I found a guy in Houston that had been he had actually been a top copier salesman too. He was like #1 in IBM or Xerox or something. He became a speaker, so he knew sales, right? Yeah. And 12 years in it, and he's doing great. He's living in a great big house and driving a great car. So, he's got fruit on the trees, right? He's not a theorist. You got to find somebody that's done it. Uh-huh. And so I said, man, will you be my mentor? And at first he didn't want to. He says, nah, nobody ever listens to me, and I'm not wasting my time. I says, man, whatever you say, I'll do. I'll make you look good, man. If you tell me I got to shave my head and wear lipstick, it'll make me a better speaker, man, we'll do it right now. He goes, right. Okay, fine. So we're going to meet once a month. You take me out for lunch. That's what he said. You got me for an hour. Okay, bring a list of questions. I'll answer anything you want. And then at the end, I'm going to give you some homework. If we ever meet and you didn't do last month's homework, it's over because I want action people. I said, sounds good, man, but I can't afford to buy you lunch because I'm on food stamps, okay? We're going to go to Starbucks. You can have anything on the menu as long as it's coffee of the day. Put as much sugar in it as you want, but that's all I'm buying. And he laughed and said, okay, fine. Yeah. Well, the first time we met, he says, I don't care if you're a 10-time Olympian. Unless you write a book, no one's going to take you seriously because the author is considered the authority of his subject. He wrote the book on it. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I can't write a book. I made C's in English. In fact, my parents, they celebrated when I came home with a C. And he says, doesn't matter, man. You got a great story. You write it down. We give it to some A students. They clean it up, okay? That's just grammar. And I said, right. Oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. And he goes, yeah, it's called editing. So shut up and sit down. I mean, it was like that. He was like a tough coach. But that was the courage to succeed. And it's been translated to a bunch of languages. And then I learned the process. And what I learned is that you got to break it down, okay? If you have everybody has a book in them. They do, because everybody has life experiences and everybody can teach somebody else about something. And so don't write a book, write 20 articles, okay? Mm-hmm. And so figure out what your table of contents might be, right? What your topics of your articles might be, and talk about it with some of your friends, right? So you come up with something that you think is going to be helpful. And then do a little bit of research, right? Spend a few weeks, on the internet reading and take files, one file for every chapter. And every time you read something that fits that article, that article, you put it in there. And then you start writing them. And before long, in a year, you can have a book. It's a big project, but anybody can do it. And believe it or not, I tell people I'm an Olympian. Wow. I tell them I'm an author. Wow. Right? They think it's harder to be an author. It's not. Okay. It's a lot harder to be an Olympian.
I think so too. I would endorse that for sure. Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. I think it's a key to achieving any goal, right? Is to break it down a little bit at a time. And as I always say, you don't eat an elephant with one big bite. It's like many tiny bites, right? And you
Yeah.
get there. And so if you
I'm half Italian. It's you don't eat a salami, you got to slice it, you know.
there you go. Absolutely. So yeah, if you take it one step at a time, and it's really great advice. Consider each chapter really just an article.
An article.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you do a blog for 1 year. I'm going to do
You're
a
not
blog.
able to write a chapter, but you can always write an article. That's pretty good advice. So that's great advice, man. So secondly, what is the secret to success, Ruben? We know there's no linear path to success. There are always going to be obstacles in our way. There are going to be frustrations and setbacks, and sometimes a steep learning curve, broken bones, and in your case, and it's sometimes just damn hard, right? So what is it, would you say, that keeps you from throwing in the towel? What makes you unstoppable when you reach your goals?
When I was a kid, my dad got me to read biographies. He said, if you'll study the lives of great people, you'll figure out what works and what doesn't work in life. And over and over again, what I saw was perseverance, right? I mean, all these successful people I read about, they were just a bunch of hardheads, right? They wanted their dreams so much, right? They had two types of courage. They have the courage to get started, and they have the courage to not quit, right? Well, the courage to get started, comes from believe it's possible. If you believe something's possible, hey, I'll give it a try. If you want it badly enough, nothing will make you quit, right? And so if you stay in the game long enough to learn the skills, give yourself a chance to learn the skills that will help you reach your dream. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, but it's possible. So, and then, you surround yourself with winners and with coaches and with people that will keep you in the game, right? People, I have a dream team. I'm sure you do too, right? The people that are my encouragers, people that support me. And if somebody that back then I realized right away, I was on the bench in my soccer team. I would tell the kid next to me, I say, hey, I'm going to be in the Olympics in 4 years. He almost fell off laughing, right? I thought, after experiencing that a few times, I realized there's two types of people in the world. They're either on your team or they're not, right? So you associate with the good ones and you disassociate from the other ones because they could steal your dream away.
Absolutely. Agreed. Yeah. So you mentioned courage. How would you define courage?
Aristotle, he said that you become what you repeatedly do, right? So if you do something lots of times, you become like that, right? You become known for that. And so courage, it doesn't mean you're fearless, okay? I mean, it means you're afraid, but you do it anyways, right? You fell off that horse, and what do they tell the cowboy? Get back on the horse, right? Otherwise, you're just going to move to a city and drive taxi cabs for your life. I don't know. And so you have to do what you fear. You have to be willing to do that. And that's why having a coach, in fact, when I was teaching Gabriella, my daughter, to ride a bike, right, many years ago, the first time, I thought, piece of cake, we're going to do this in a day. Well, after she was so excited, but after she fell a few times, she wasn't so excited anymore. And I had realized that I have to help her, I have to encourage her, and I have to push her, tough love, to get her to keep going, right? And then the second day we came back, it's still not much better. And then I realized that whenever she got afraid, she stopped pedaling. And then she lost momentum and she fell. And so I said, okay, from now on, we pedal. Even if you fall and you're on your side, I want to see you pedaling, okay? And so she started doing that. And now she's going 10 feet instead of 5 feet, right? And then the third day, she just took off. And she went up about 30 feet, but she had no control, right? So she went off kind of to the side. It was like a question mark. And then she made this circle. But she still must have thought that I was holding her bike. Because when she saw me, her eyes got big. Oh, ow, she fell down. But she jumped up, right? Dad, I did it. That's right, baby. That's right. And so that's when I realized how important a coach is, because he helps you get through the fear stage. You can't do it by yourself.
But you said something really insightful there, when you told her, hey, no matter what, keep pedaling. Because the thing that gets you through the fear, which we define as courage, is the action, is the fact that you keep pedaling, right? You keep on pushing.
Good point. That's right.
So What was it like for you? Talk to me about.
Getting hot now, man. I'm getting excited telling you all these stories. There goes the code. Okay.
There you go. So, dude, I remember, and I can think back right now and feel me at the start of a bobsled race and how I wouldn't say I'm terrified. I'm just a nervous wreck until they say the start is clear, right? And part of that obviously is a fear for sure. And you know that once the start is clear, it's time to take action. It's time.
You got 30 seconds. There's this little clock, guys.
So
down.
What was it like for you? How did you get through those moments leading into the start?
Well, with the luge, they start you like on curve 10, and you're going 30 miles an hour, and it's crash, 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 crash. And as soon as you figure it out, coach moves you up a couple of curves. Now you're going 40 miles an hour, right? Oh my gosh, 40 miles an hour. There's no time to think.
I was about to say, you know what? You 40 miles an hour feel like you're flying, right?
Oh my gosh, and that ice is hard. And man, now 50, you literally crash your way to the top in the luge, okay? And then even when you make it to the top, well, every track is different, right? So it takes, and I don't know if you experienced this, but let's say I made a mistake. I was late into curve 7. If I don't correct, then I'm gonna be later on curve 8 and I'm gonna crash on curve 9, right? But you have no experience, so you don't even know that you're late. And so all these crashes, it takes several years before your brain gets trained to understand it and you're actually listening to coach. Yeah. Sometimes coach, it's hard. It might be a really tight curve and it's hard to get out, right? Like in the old days, the old Lake Placid track, curve 1 from the men's, it was impossible to get out, right? Oh my God, yes. Long straightaway and boom. And so they would tell us to drive up, right? Because then we would be able to have
to get off, yeah.
Right. Well, that didn't make sense. I'm thinking, no, if I'm driving as hard as I can and I can't go up, if I drive up, I'm gonna fly out, right? And so I wasn't listening to coach because I didn't trust him. Yeah. And so yeah, it's a mental struggle. Now what the coaches are telling me is, yeah, you're listening to us for the first time, but you're still, you trust us, but you don't trust yourself yet. So I'll come out of curve 8 in Calgary. Guys, curve 8, if you saw Cool Runnings, okay, curve 8 leads into that long straightaway, yes. Right? And then the straightaway, and then comes the Kreisel, that big circle curve where they crash, right? Well, curve 8, if you don't come out right, and then the straightaway leans a little bit, just a little bit, and then there's wind that pushes you to the left. And so by the end, man, you're always, so even when I'm coming out straight out of 8, I get nervous and I put my feet down. And they say, man, you had a great line. Why'd you put your feet down? You have to trust yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And that's all, I think that's all part of the growth. And it's really interesting because here it is that you're working on your 5th Olympic Games, but you're still learning.
We're learning. I'm a baby. Yeah. I'm a baby. Listen to this. I am so amazed. Coach always tells me at the end of the run, Ruben, you must relax, right? Because I am tight because I'm scared to death, right? Yeah. And you can't steer. You can't be good at any sport if you're tight. You have to be loose and relaxed.
Relaxed, yes.
Right? Yeah. Well, I was I had a new helmet when I was in Calgary, and they have to adjust the visor so it'll fit me. So they have to cut it, and so I'm sitting in this workshop. And one of the coaches, who's a 3-time Olympian from Latvia, his name is Guntis. And so Guntis says, okay, let's try it now. So I'm laying down and we're seeing if the visor is, okay, good. Now sit up. Okay, now lay down. And now when I lay down, I would grab the handles like this, right? The handle of with my fist, right? That's how I've always grabbed it. He goes, what are you doing? That's not how you grab the handle. I said, what do you mean? He goes, no, you grab it with these 2 fingers like a pistol, okay? Because if you grab it like this, it makes your forearm tense, that tenseness starts there.
The shoulders to steer.
Yes, you hold like this just so you're holding, but you can't make force with 2 fingers. I said, okay, fine. And I go, okay, lay down again. And I lay down, muscle memory, still held the leg. So get off that sled. He took a grinder and he cut my handles so they only fit 2 fingers. I said, what are you doing to my sled? He goes, I'm making you faster. Shut up. So 4-time Olympian doesn't even know how to grab a hold of the handles. Can you believe that?
But that's a tough love right there. That is a teammate that you need. So
oh yeah,
we never stop learning. We never stop needing teammates, no matter how accomplished we think we are. So it's a, great lesson.
If you're green, you're growing, right? If you're ripe, you're gonna rot.
Absolutely. So, dude, this has been awesome, man. It's really great to catch up with you and kind of hear your stories and get you to share those gems, those pearls of wisdom with us. So thank you so much for appearing and keep on pushing. So I know you're a speaker, and I want you to tell us where people can find you. Let's start there.
Sure. My website is thelugeman.com. The Luge Man. The Iceman was taken. That would have been so much easier. It's thelugeman.com. There's videos there and all kinds of cool stuff.
All right, cool. So yes, folks, so thelugeman.com to find my friend, Ruben Gonzalez, the luger, who, has an amazing story and some real nuggets of wisdom that's going to help you to really reach the next level in terms of your business and your life in general. And on that note, Ruben, I know you have a special offer for our listeners as well.
Well, I've always believed it's all about mental toughness, right? Coach used to always say, you're only 6 inches away from success. And I never understood what that meant. He goes, yeah, 6 inches. That's the distance between your ears, okay? It's what you're thinking. And so I put together a course, and what I see there that helps, that keeps people back. Everybody knows what they need to do, but getting themselves to do it, that's the catch, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you have all this firepower, but no trigger finger, right? Because it's that fear of the unknown, fear of failure that holds people back. And so I created an online course. It's about 10 hours altogether between videos and audio, 70 really short message lessons that you can go at your own speed. And it's designed to help you to grow inside, become mentally tough, perseverant, and develop the habits that you and I use to reach our goals. It's not rocket science, guys. Mm-hmm. It's just reprogramming your mind so you can do what you can do. And so you can check it out. You can actually even check out some of the videos, test it out, pre-test it ahead of time. But it's olympiasuccess.com. And it's $497, but the Cool Running Special, if you put Cool Runnings, right, as your product code, you're going to get $300 off, all right? So only $197. And it's good stuff. And it's good stuff for your kids, too. So that's the offer, Olympia
awesome.
Success.
Thank you for that, man. So olympiasuccess.com, correct?
Olympiasuccess.com. And then Cool Runnings, all one word, put together. That's your coupon code. You better spell it right, because that's worth $300 to you.
All right, guys. So olympiasuccess.com, and don't forget, it's all about Cool Runnings. Use that as your discount code. You'll get this amazing success coach, in Ruben and his course to help you become mentally tough and get to the next level. Ruben, Lugeman, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for, gracing us with your presence and sharing your wisdom with us. We are
Devon,
better for it, my man.
Sled God, man. I tell you, it's great, man. I wish, I hope I see you soon. Okay, you need to come visit me in Colorado one day.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on that subscribe button and hit that bell. You'll get a notification every time we post a new video. And don't forget, share it with your friends, man. They want to be inspired as well, right? So share it. Don't keep it. And before you go on to the next video, visit my website, www.devonharris.com. Keep on pushing.